Hello and welcome back to our sustainable journey. We're going to talk about maple syrup. So this is what's left of one of our jars. I think we have 2 more jars left, which means it's definitely time to tap trees. We tapped trees 2 years ago, I believe, and then we didn't tap them last year because we had plenty still. I think we ended up getting 8 jars of syrup. I think we started with probably 80 gallons of sap, because it melts down something fierce. So what we did over the summer is we identified the trees that we're going to be tapping. So the ones with the pink ribbons on them, there's one over there, there's one out that way, and there's a couple out that way. We're probably only going to tap a couple this year. So you could see this is where we tapped them 2 years ago. I'm trying to see if this one had 2 taps on it. I don't think it did. And this one right here, you see where it was tapped. And you don't want to tap it in the same place, the same height. So we'll move the tap to a different spot on the tree. That's so that it can heal. But you can see it completely healed and sealed up the area that had the tap before. See? This one you want to go a few feet up and drill a hole on a slight angle so that the sap will drip down. And what we use, so metal spiles, so they go in the tree. So they'll go into the tree like this, and then we have these nice little PVC hooks that kind of hang on them, so it'll hang on the spile. And then this one's on there. The cap is on this one backwards. And then the bag, so then the bag will hang below it and catch all the sap that drips out of this hole. And so we were probably getting 1 gallon to 2 gallons per tree per day last year, on average. So, but it depends on the size of the tree too. So these ones are only gonna get 1 tap. We have some bigger trees out in our woods that will get more than 1. You don't want too many because you don't want to hurt the tree. You want the tree to live. So let me check out the other trees that are on my list. This one over here is probably going to get 2. And you can also tap, besides maple trees, you can tap black walnut is supposed to be good. We tapped one of ours last time to see how it was. It was, for all intents and purposes, about the same as far as flavor goes. And so it was all right. A lot of work. So we'd need to do a lot of them to get as much as we do out of the maple trees. Obviously you want sugar maple. That's why in the summertime we go through and we mark all of our trees, because right now it's kind of hard to tell which one's a maple tree and which one isn't, unless you're a really good tree expert, and I am not. So we take the leaves and we'll take pictures of them and things like that. So this one is over next to our pile of wood that we need to do something with. But see, this one's got 2, so we're not going to touch this little one, but we'll touch this one. And yep, see, that's where it was tapped last time. So we may tape that. I don't know if that one's a maple. I don't know, we didn't label it, so I'm not gonna tap that one. We'll just tap this one. And then I don't know if you can see beyond the beyond the zip line there. There's another one out there in the woods that produces a ton of sap. The problem is it's at the bottom and then the top of a hill, so it depends on the weather and whether or not we want to go down there and back up and carrying a 5-gallon bucket full of sap, because it gets kind of heavy. So that'll be our plan. So temperatures, you want it freezing at night, not freezing during the day. So we're going to do it probably this weekend, maybe next weekend, because we're right about at that temperature range. The season lasts roughly a month and a half. And we do it out here. I've never done it in a suburban area, just because people would be messing with your tap lines or whatever, because there aren't that many trees that you can have. But out here we probably have dozens and dozens and dozens of maple trees that we can tap. There's actually a lot more that we've identified farther down, but we don't want to walk that far with full 5-gallon buckets, because those get heavy. That's probably, what, 30 pounds of sap that you're carrying around in the woods. And when there's snow on the ground, it's not ideal. So that's temperature. Size of trees. So you want trees that are at least 10 inches in diameter. That's why I say there's a ton more trees out here, but there's a lot of smaller ones too. So we're gonna leave those ones alone, let them grow up a bit. Just focus on the big boys. What else? So it usually we start in early to mid-February, but it depends on the seasons and the weather, like I said. So you want that freezing temperature, because what that does is it draws the sap into the tree, and then during the day it'll drop it back down, is how I understand it. And that's why it comes down the spile instead of going up. That's why you angle it down, because it's coming down back into the ground. What other notes do I have? Okay, then once you've tapped your trees, there's a whole filtering process, because you will get because it's basically sugar water, right? So you're going to get moths, you're going to get little bugs and things like that. So we filter it before we boil it, and then we filter it again after we boil it. And then I think there's one more filter that my wife does after she boils it, does the final boil. So what'll happen is we boil it outside for the first 12 hours worth of boiling, and we'll set up a series of pans. Think of like those metal buffet table pans. We'll have a series of those on top of our boiler. And our boiler is basically a 55-gallon drum on its side. You fill it with wood, start it burning, and you keep it burning all day long. 12-hour boil, which is another reason we keep, as you can see, all the wood bins from winter that are empty. But then there's all the extra wood that we have that we keep aside, and then I usually use all the sticks and stuff for the boil process, because you need to keep the water boiling the entire time. So we'll post a video once we get to that point. It's probably going to be a month before we get to the actual boil process, and once we have enough sap to actually boil it down. But it's maintaining a boil for 12 hours is tough, because you're constantly adding new sap that's been frozen, or is very cold, because it is very cold out, to stuff, and it lowers the temperature, and so you need to keep it boiling. So I have a whole system that I do to keep it going, and then after all that, so let's say 40 to 80 gallons of sap, we'll get 4 to 8 jars, those pint jars of syrup. But it is the best syrup you could ever taste. Could we do more? Of course. But we don't sell it, we don't give it to people, because it's a lot of work, and if I'm giving you a jar of syrup, it means that I spent hours and hours getting it there. So we don't bother selling it, because there's rules in Illinois about selling food and stuff like that, and we didn't want to deal with it, so we'll just give it to friends and family, but only if they really appreciate it. There's Waldorf. Hey, bud. So there you go. That's what we're gonna get ready to do, is drill into these trees, get the sap on, and then we'll be boiling it down in the coming weeks and months. So fun thing to do to provide your family with food, and some delicious maple syrup. It's homemade. It's awesome. It's so good. So give it a try. It's really easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So good luck. We'll see you later. Do you hear the coyotes? Every night this is what we hear. Somewhere over there.